On this episode of Homestead Tessie, we're going to make strawberry syrup. And it's coming out of the Ball Complete Guide to Home Preserving. If you have this book, it would be on page 197. If you don't have the book, I am going to share with you the recipe. I'm going to do a little twist on it. Actually, what they call you to do is they call you to strain the strawberry juice. But I'm going to use the whole strawberries because I feel like you should use every part of the berry and not just use the juice, because then you would be wasting all the other parts of it. What is this good for? This is almost like a jelly, but you don't have any of the pectin. This would be good, really good on top of vanilla ice cream. This would be good on top of waffles. Also really good on top of some other kind of desserts. And it's really simple and it's really easy to make. So let's get started. This is the season that fresh strawberries will come in. So what you can do with this recipe is you can get all of your strawberries that you have frozen from the year before. And I have all of these strawberries that were frozen from last year, and I thought, what a good way to use them up so I have room for my fresh strawberries. The recipe calls for 10 cups of strawberries that are crushed, 3 cups of water, 1 strip of lemon peel, 2½ cups of granulated sugar, 3½ cups of corn syrup, and 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. So we're going to get started on this. So what I'm going to do is get a fairly big saucepan like this, and I'm just going to open my packages. They're partly thawed. It doesn't matter if they're not totally thawed because we are going to heat them up. And I'm just going to dump all of them in. And I'm estimating that this is about 10 cups. I could be a little off, but you're not making jelly, so this recipe does not have to be precise either. In fact, if you do not like the white sugar, you can always use honey in a recipe like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all the ingredients into the saucepan right away, and then we're going to put it on the stove and we're going to heat it. It says here that we are going to boil it for 5 minutes. And then after that, the recipe calls for you to strain it in a cheesecloth. I'm not going to strain it because I really like bits of pieces of strawberry in with my syrup. So I'm not going to strain it. To me, that seems like an added step, which I'm all for doing things extremely efficient. But if you want to go with the recipe, you are supposed to strain it for 2 to 4 hours and then use that juice to can. But we're going to do the whole berries. So it calls for 1 strip of lemon peel, and it goes just like that. It calls for 2½ cups of granulated sugar, so if you remember how I store my sugar, I store them in gallon jars like this. So that's 1 cup, 2 cups, and if you saw my other videos, I don't have a measuring cup set. I just have this 1 cup, and it seems to work out fairly good for me. That's about 2½, and it calls for 3½ cups of corn syrup. Now, I know a lot of you are not going to like the corn syrup. I totally understand that, and I don't know why you would have to have it. I think you could do it without, but it calls for it, and I'm not that particular, so I'm going to use it. Like I said, this is something you're not going to eat a large amount of at one time. And yes, it does seem like a lot of sugar too. So you can cut back on the sugar, really. You don't even have to use sugar if you don't want to. And I'm going to just go with 3 cups. 3½ seems awful high. But this would be really good if you want to use a little of this and add it to a smoothie, just a small amount, or if you want to make strawberry icing with it, this would be really good for that. This is just one of those guilty pleasures that you can have every once in a great while. And this batch here will be enough for me for the whole year. We don't eat much of this kind of food, but this would be perfect for the whole year. Or you could give it as a gift. It would be really nice as a gift. Alright, and then it calls for 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. And I did see somebody put a vanilla bean in it as well. That would be really good. But I do not have any vanilla beans at the moment. So, okay, and this is all it is. And what we're going to do is we're going to heat up slowly, and when it comes to a boil, I am going to use my trusty little hand mixer like this. And we're going to mix it up really fine, and I'll show you what it looks like. Strawberries are heating up. I'm going to show you a little bit the jars that I have. These are all the jelly jars that I have left. So I have 4 of them. The recipe says it will make 3 pints. So we're going to go with the little jelly jars though. So I have 4 of them, and I have one of the larger jelly jar. We'll see how much I have left because I'm running out of jars. Believe it or not, I'm running out of canning jars. Now you've seen on other recipes that I have done, if it's pressure canning, I do not heat the lids up ahead of time. But being that this isn't going to be pressure canned, you want to take hot water and you want to soak your lids for 5 minutes. My friend gave me this vintage pot, and we're going to use this as my little canner. When you're starting out, especially if you're making jellies and you're making small jars, you don't have to go out and buy a special canner to can. If you're water bathing, just add a pot that's large enough that you can have 2 to 3 inches of water over the top of your jars. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place this clean dish towel on the bottom of my pot, and these will easily fit on the bottom just like that when they're filled. You fill it on the top so that make sure that the tops of your jars are covered, and you're ready to can. So Patty, you were asking about for a beginner canner. This would be a perfect recipe for a beginner canning person because it's very simple. It only takes a few minutes, and it will help you increase in your knowledge and also help you with doing something smaller first and then working your way up to harder projects. Get a pot, a kettle, just like this, or this size, or a little bigger. You can put this down on the bottom, and we're going to put our jars in, and as long as you have an inch of water or more above your lids, you're fine. And this says to can it for 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm going to wait, and I'll show you when the strawberries are ready to fill the jars. Okay, the syrup is finished. In the cookbook it says if you don't like the syrup to be as thin as it is, when you are ready to make it, you just add a little cornstarch, but you can't can it with the cornstarch. But when you open up a jar, if you want to make it a little thicker, you can just add a little cornstarch to it. Alright, we're going to fill our jars up to the rim. Leave a little head space. This is what I would call a beginner's canning recipe. Because it's easier than jelly, because sometimes people have a hard time with having their jelly not set. And let's see if we can fit a pint in here yet. I think it will fit another pint. Actually, it might fit a couple pints. Okay, this makes quite a bit. Like I said, this will be enough for us for a whole year. I see already I'm going to have to get another pint jar. Okay, then what you want to do is you want to take a rag and wipe the rims of each jar. And you want to take one of the lids off out of the hot water and put a screw band on, screw it down to finger tight, and there's one jar. And we'll put it in our kettle. And we're going to keep doing this for all the jars. And when I'm finished, I'll show you how they look in the canner, in the little saucepan. This is actually a very fun recipe. I make this once a year. And we pretty much eat it all up. Now every once in a while you'll see I will use a jar that was like a pickle jar. I use that. They seal for me. It's not USDA recommended, but it works for me. And so I use it when I'm making water bath. Water bath is high acid fruits and things that are high acid, and pressure canning is for like meats and for vegetables that are low acid. And in every book there is a scale that shows you which is which. Pickles are high acid because they have the vinegar in it, and fruits are always high acid. Alright, I'm going to finish this up and then I'll show you what it looks like. So the strawberries are heating up very nicely, and I have them all blended nice. There's no chunks anymore. It's nice and smooth. And as soon as this comes to a boil, I'm going to turn it off, and then I'm going to fill my jars. This is basically a jelly recipe, except for you're not using any pectin, and it's not going to get that congealed. It's going to stay more like a syrup. And if you ever make jelly and it doesn't set, this is perfect thing to do. Just use the jelly that doesn't set and use that as your syrup. And this, my friends, is the finished project. And I want to show you what I got from the UK. And I get a whole bunch of these at a time. They're called jam pot covers. And they're 2-pound jam pot covers. And they are from the UK. And I just love them. They help decorate the top of it. So that is what the finished product looks like. And they are beautiful. Bye, guys.